What's up, everybody? It's Joe Miller from the Dirty Burfield, and here we are, post-roll. And I just finished filming the videos on how to seat a bead, and I ended up that day breaking my bead 3 times. Now we have an official trail fix, so we can actually say this is a documented, real trail fix. This is what would happen. If you go to my how-to videos, the first step to this is putting a ratchet strap around the axle housing and then to the frame rail, so when you use the high lift jack and lift up your truck from the rock slider, the whole truck actually lifts up instead of leaving the wheel on the ground. And then I'm going to seat the bead using throttle body cleaner because that's the fastest way to do it. And then we'll see what else we got for damage. I'm pretty sure it's a broken axle, but there you have it. That's the setup. I was going to time lapse it, but I feel like the videos are more helpful if you can actually see in real time this stuff get done. Just because, I don't know, to me it's just more realistic. And it gives me someone to talk to. So it's kind of slanted this way. Remember, I have the wheel chuck there. I might adjust this. In fact, I'm totally going to adjust it. Remember, keep your hand on the handle or let it do it itself. So I'm not sure if you can see that. It's hard to tell. This is sloped downhill a little bit, so I have it on an angle. You can tell from here. Okay, you can see the wheel coming off the ground, and you got to go high enough to roll that tire out. So now, we're really just going to wiggle this to get the bead. Oh, we need more height. So you can see how sketchy this can kind of get. I'm lifted up really high on this side, and I'm just downhill. There's a slope that goes uphill over there, so you don't want to be under the truck. You want to avoid that at all costs. And always try not to have your hands under the tire or under the wheel in case it falls, or your feet. Okay, so if you notice, I'm going to seat this bead, and I actually want this kind of pushed up against that back face. So I'm actually just going to find something that I can kind of wedge up against here. Actually, you know what? We'll actually just leave it like that, and I'll show you how good this method can be. What I want to do is, this is a big gap here, so when I fill this, it's going to shoot out here. There's potential for a lot of flames. You can see how bent I am. I'm pretty sure broken axle. My wheel's not supposed to be pointed out this way. So let's just do this. Get your throttle body cleaner. And I don't have a air compressor set up or anything, and I know that I did 2 laps around this with the bead seated really well, so I'm actually gonna kind of come in here real easy for me to get in here. Okay, now always say go light, and then this, here we go. Okay, not even close to enough. So I actually need this to be like pulled forward here. So I'm gonna get a piece of wood and just kind of jam it, because I don't have hands, to hold this kind of closed. But remember, if it doesn't work the first time, you have to get fresh air in there. Otherwise, it's not gonna light. Okay, so fresh air, and this. Oh my gosh, I have to get a better camera. It's really annoying. So I seated the bead, and anyways, camera battery died. So what I wanted to tell you is, in my how-to, when I show you how to seat the bead with fire, which you can go back to anyways, I talk about getting a compressor on really quick. I have this is like a 8 or 9 inch rim, I can't remember, but I like to run 8 or 9 inch rims with a 12 inch or wider. These are 13.5s, because it just seats really nice on the bead. So I'm not worried about this bead coming off and it sucking in, but you can see, I'm not sure if you can see, first of all, you can see my broken axle, or whatever is broken, we'll find out. But it's sucking the tire in right now. And all I just want to do is kind of illustrate why you want to hook up that compressor right away if you have something that has a weak bead. So that's actually sucking air in, that's not coming out. Can you see that? Hopefully the video is decent. So we actually had negative pressure, because when that expands in there and then cools down and uses up all the oxygen, once the bead is seated, it actually sucks everything all in, okay? And what you didn't see, which I'm super bummed about, is that it took me a couple tries to get the bead to seat. And one of the things I tell you about doing it with throttle body cleaner is you got to make sure you have all the air cleaned out. And what I ended up doing is I lit it, and it was like pretty uneventful. It was just like as if you lit it on the ground. There was no expansion. And so what I did, even though I kicked it and thought I got a bunch of fresh air in, it was on fire in the rim, and I just kicked it like this. As soon as I did that, it pushed the old air out and sucked in new air. As soon as I did that, boom, the bead seated, and we were done. Okay, so I just had a comment on my Facebook page, which I never check, for the Dirty Burfield, and someone asked me why. They said time for bead locks, and first of all, a bead lock wouldn't have fixed this broken axle, and this is like a non-issue to me on the trail. A blown bead is absolutely a non-issue, and in fact, I mean, I might be shooting myself in the foot. I'm not sure what it's going to look like when we pull this all apart, but I would rather have this bead have blown, kind of like an airbag, and taken out the impact. And I'm hoping, keeping my fingers crossed, that it's just an axle shaft, not a bent rim, not a bent axle housing. It looks nice and straight from when I've looked at it from the outside, but it's possible that if I had a bead lock and this wasn't able to blow and give as it came down, that I might have bent the rim or potentially bent the housing, if it's not bent already. I mean, hopefully it's not. We'll see when the axle shaft goes in. Okay, but now we're good to go. Let's have a look at this so you can see us from the front side, and you're not on my gimbal. It's gonna be a little shaky. Okay, that's the rear axle, not the front axle turned. So because it's semi-float, we'll pull it apart. I highly recommend white shirts when you're wheeling, working on your truck. piece of wood. All right. Now I can use my tire as a seat, spare it as a jack stand. So I'm just out here taking it easy. A lot of people panic and like, it's interesting watching the comments. Oh, by the way, I appreciate everyone, you know, saying thank goodness you're okay, that kind of stuff. Super appreciated. But it's funny with the comments about, you know, what to fix, what to upgrade. I'm not gonna upgrade anything. I'm putting a stock axle shaft back in because I don't actually care what kind of axle you had in here. It was chromoly fancy rear axle shaft, probably would have shattered. So I'm a big fan, just like my front IFS hubs and factory IFS hub studs that are a dime a dozen for me to find, you know, when I'm around. To find an IFS hub, no problem. To find a Toyota IFS pickup truck rear axle shaft, I have like 4 sitting at home. I think the most I've ever paid for one, and I've never had to break, like this is the first rear axle shaft I've ever broken. I feel like it was respectable, but the amount of abuse that the stock rear shafts live up to is pretty amazing in my opinion. And some people, when I was building my rear axle, were like, oh, how come you didn't go full float? Well, the reason for it is because all right, have a look at that. Wow, that is freaking cool. Okay, let me get you over here. Oh, let me get you over here. This is cool. I should really put you in my gimbal. But look at that. Look at that. You know, I was wondering why my seal was still fine. And it's because it broke like on the thickest part of the shaft, which is, that's actually amazing. Okay, so as I was saying before this all fell apart, what's pretty freaking cool is I'll have to straighten out my disc brake bracket. Or I actually have a spare, so I'll probably just throw one of those on. This is only 1/4 inch plate. But man, this is awesome because pull these 4 bolts, new stock shaft in, and we're done and wheeling again. Assuming that nothing catastrophic happened to the front end, but I watched the video about 1,000,000 times, and I'm pretty excited about that. I don't think my front end took much of a hit. So, yeah!